Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alma True-Ott. By way of introduction, I have a PhD doctorate in the field of nutrition, and I am also a licensed naturopathic doctor in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., and is also retroactive into 39 states. I tell you this just by way of introduction. I am not a practicing naturopathic doctor here in Utah. I'm not licensed to do so. What I do specialize in is research in the area of nutrition and all things nutrition related. And I need to produce this DVD and video tonight to expose to my listening base and my listening audience and 2,500 of my specific distributors and individuals that I'm associated with what I feel is perhaps the most important single story, news story of our time. And I'm sure as you go on and listen to the facts and evidence as I'm going to present them to you tonight, I am very confident that you will agree with this. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about tonight the bird flu hype, so-called bird flu. And I'm going to show you tonight how that is really not an accurate term. What we call and talk about the bird flu is really best described as the 1918 flu pandemic, repackaged, rebottled, and prepared as a biological weapon. I'm going to show you tonight how that's happened. I'm going to show you tonight how that is perhaps the largest single threat facing America in the next 3 to 6 months. Before we go into that, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background and share with you some of the earlier history that it's not going to be on this PowerPoint presentation, to give you just a little bit of to set the stage, if you will, set the table. I'm going to go back and we're going to talk about what happened in the year 1930 in April. This is from documented archives, easily verifiable data. In the month of April of 1930, a company called Eli Lilly made a substance called thimerosal, also known as mercury. This thimerosal is used in different vaccines since the 1930s. Is what's called an adjuvant. An adjuvant is something that by definition increases the effectiveness, per se, of the virus or the bacteria that's in the vaccination. Now, I need to give you a little bit of background as to who Eli Lilly, the founders of Eli Lilly are, and the people that sat at the board of directors at that time. We go back and look at the directors of Eli Lilly. We find a man named Prescott Bush, who is the father of George Herbert Walker Bush, who is the father of our current president, George W. Bush. We find also that Prescott Bush had a number of very interesting people sitting on the board at that time. The father of Herbert Walker Bush's vice president, Dan Quayle, the Quayle family also sat on the board of directors at the time of Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly in 1930 published a series of experiments on this thimerosal product. And as I pulled and saw the results of this thimerosal study, I was incredibly stunned. They inject the thimerosal into 22 people with spinal meningitis, all of which die immediately. However, Eli Lilly publishes the study and somehow claims that thimerosal, which is 50% toxic mercury by weight, is completely safe. So that's the first stage to be set. I'm linking here George W. Bush's father, George Herbert Walker Bush, his father, Prescott Bush, to the very first studies of thimerosal and vaccinations back in 1930. In 1972, I found the World Health Organization, also known as WHO, bulletin number 47. This refers to the creation of an immune virus and suggests that a useful way to study the effects would be, quote, to put this virus into a vaccination program nationwide and observe the results, end quote. Many people, many biochemists I've spoken with have theorized that the World Health Organization used the smallpox vaccination program in Central Africa, first of all, for this study. And from there, that's what led into the spread of HIV, the infection. It coincides precisely with that most intense and recent smallpox vaccination campaign. So I'm here to tell you, folks, that in 1972, that smallpox experimentation was what led to the HIV/AIDS outbreak that is currently devastating Africa, and which is currently a problem here in America as well. The virus requested, again, this is the 1972 bulletin number 47, says the virus requested would selectively destroy the human T-cell system. And let me just say that's exactly what the human immunosuppressant virus, HIV, actually does. All right, so I set the stage there in 1972, and I'm showing you that this is not just something that's just happened in 2007, 2006, 2008. This has been an ongoing series of problems in America. The problem is most Americans are oblivious and ignorant to what's been actually happening. Again, this is the reason for this DVD presentation tonight. Let's turn the clock back to the year 1974. A man named Henry Kissinger writes a classified national security study memorandum for the year 2000. Again, this is in 1974 that they writes a national security memorandum for the year 2000, 26 years in the future. This national security study is entitled Implications of Worldwide Population Growth for U.S. Security and Overseas Interest. This report amazingly identifies the nation states of India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nigeria, Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil, the Philippines, Thailand, Egypt, Turkey, Ethiopia, and Colombia as, quote, targets for initial population reduction experimentation to be implemented around the year 2000. In 1974, also the Philippine Supreme Court found and ruled that 3 million Filipinos between the ages of 12 and 45 years of age were given a specific test vaccine that ruined their health. Again, who gave them this vaccine? It was individuals tied to the Kissinger report in the World Health Organization. Also, we find that Native American Indians, women and black women in the United States also received this experimental vaccine. And we found also that sterility rates in Native American women in the U.S. that received this vaccine exceeded 35%, and sterility rates in black women in the U.S. today is over 25%. And we also need to talk about briefly what happened in December 1976 to set the stage for what we call the bird flu hoax. We need to also look back at something called the swine flu hoax that happened in December of 1976. In Fort Dix, New Jersey, a U.S. soldier died. One soldier died. The Centers for Disease Control at that time reported to the nation, to the world on the controlled media, that the American people were in danger of